You know, one of the hardest lessons I ever had to learn was that purpose has to be stronger than circumstance. Because it's easy to stay committed when everything's going right, when the doors are opening, the applause is loud, and the path feels clear. But what happens when it's not? What happens when life throws something at you that you didn't see coming? When the very thing you thought you were called to do gets taken away from you? That's when you find out what your purpose is really made of. See, a lot of people say they're passionate. They're passionate as long as things feel good, as long as there's progress. But purpose, real purpose, doesn't depend on conditions. It doesn't care if the lights are on or off, if the crowd is cheering or silent. Purpose shows up regardless. It shows up when it hurts. It shows up when nobody's watching. It shows up when everything in you says, why keep going? When I was younger, I had a dream just like anybody else. I thought I knew exactly how my story was going to go. I was chasing success, chasing the future, chasing that one goal I thought would define my life. But one moment changed everything. In an instant, everything I had built my identity on, gone. I remember lying in that hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking, why me? Why now? And it was in that quiet, painful space that I realized something. Life might have changed my plan, but it didn't change my purpose. See, purpose doesn't vanish when circumstances shift. It doesn't disappear when the route changes. Purpose is deeper than a job, deeper than a dream, deeper than a title. It's not about what you do, it's about who you become while you do it. And when you truly understand that, the setbacks stop feeling like punishments and start looking like preparation. Every single one of us will face a moment where the path we thought we were supposed to walk gets blocked. Maybe it's a broken dream, maybe it's a loss, maybe it's disappointment that cuts deep. But here's what I know: if your purpose is real, it'll find another way out. Purpose has a funny way of rerouting your life without your permission. What looks like a detour is often direction. What feels like rejection might just be redirection. You've got to ask yourself, why did I start? Because if your why is shallow, you'll give up the moment things get hard. But if your why is rooted in something greater than you, something that lives beyond comfort, then no circumstance can take it away. You'll bend, but you won't break. You'll stumble, but you won't stop. Because you know what you're standing on. I had to learn to see my situation not as a setback, but as a setup. To grow, to serve, to live with a deeper sense of purpose than I ever knew before. When your purpose becomes bigger than your pain, your perspective changes. You stop asking, why me? And you start saying, try me. You stop running from the challenge and start running toward growth. Because the truth is, the very thing that tried to break you might be the thing that builds you. So don't let your circumstance define you. Let your conviction drive you. Don't let what you've lost make you forget what you still have. The power of purpose is that it refuses to quit when life gets unfair. It reminds you that you didn't start this journey just to survive. You started it to make a difference. Never forget why you started. Pain has a way of teaching you things that comfort never could. We all love the idea of growth, but nobody likes what growth actually feels like. Because real growth hurts. It stretches you. It breaks you open in ways you didn't know you could handle. But if you're willing to endure it, that pain becomes one of your greatest teachers. It shows you who you are when everything else is stripped away. I remember a time when I thought pain was punishment, when I thought, man, I must have done something wrong for life to hit me like this. But over time, I realized pain wasn't there to destroy me. It was there to develop me. Sometimes God doesn't use comfort to prepare you, He uses discomfort. Because comfort makes you complacent, but pain makes you pay attention. It opens your eyes to what really matters. It sharpens your focus, humbles your heart, and deepens your gratitude. There's a certain clarity that only comes through struggle. When you're hurting, you start to see what's essential and what's extra. You start to see who's really there for you, what's truly worth your time, and how much you've been taking for granted. Pain rearranges your priorities. It cuts through the noise. It forces you to slow down and listen to your body, to your heart, to your spirit. And when you do, you start hearing things you used to ignore. You start understanding that maybe what you're going through isn't meant to stop you. Maybe it's meant to strengthen you. I can look back now and see that the hardest seasons of my life were also the most defining ones. They didn't feel like blessings at the time, but they were. Because pain introduced me to a version of myself I would have never met otherwise. A version that was patient, disciplined, grounded, and unshakable. And you can't fake that kind of strength. It's earned through struggle. You can't buy that kind of peace. It's built through pain. We all pray for purpose, but we rarely realize that purpose comes with pressure. You can't ask to be used greatly and expect not to be tested deeply. The weight of what you're called to carry will challenge everything in you. But here's the beauty of it. Every painful moment, every disappointment, every tear is shaping you into the person your purpose requires you to be. It's carving out character, humility, and empathy. It's preparing you to handle the very thing you asked for. There's a quote I live by: you can't have testimony without a test. Everybody loves the idea of victory, but nobody talks about the process that produces it. The nights when you're crying yourself to sleep. The mornings you wake up and question if you can keep going. The moments where you feel unseen and unheard. That's the place where purpose is refined. That's where you decide whether you're going to let the pain make you bitter or better. And the truth is, pain will change you either way. You get to decide how. You can let it harden your heart, or you can let it open you up to a deeper level of compassion and strength. You can let it break your spirit, or you can let it build your endurance. The difference is perspective. When you see pain as a teacher instead of an enemy, you stop running from it. You start asking, what is this moment trying to show me? What is this season trying to teach me? And when you approach pain with that mindset, it stops having power over you. Every scar you carry tells a story. It's proof that you've survived something that was meant to break you. Don't hide it. Don't be ashamed of it. Because somewhere out there, someone needs to see that scar to believe they can survive too. Pain gives your purpose depth. It gives your story weight. It gives your voice authority. Pain produces perspective. I meet a lot of people who are passionate. They've got dreams, goals, energy. They're fired up. But here's what I've learned: passion by itself isn't enough. Because passion burns hot, but it also burns out. Passion is that spark you feel at the start, when everything's new and exciting. Purpose is what keeps you going when that excitement fades. Passion might get you started, but purpose keeps you steady when the road gets long, when the applause stops, when nobody's clapping anymore. I remember when I first started chasing my dream, I was driven by passion. Every morning I woke up hungry. I wanted to be great. I wanted to make it. I wanted to prove something. But when life hit me, when things didn't go the way I expected, that passion started to fade. And that's when I realized something powerful. I had been chasing the feeling, not the foundation. Passion made me excited about what I did, but purpose reminded me why I did it. See, passion is emotional. It depends on how things are going. If things are good, your energy is high. But if things fall apart, your drive disappears. Purpose, on the other hand, is anchored. It doesn't waver with the weather. It doesn't care if it's raining or shining. Purpose says, I'm showing up regardless. Passion says, I feel like it. Purpose says, I'm called to it. When you start living with purpose, you move differently. You stop chasing recognition and start chasing impact. You stop worrying about who's watching and start focusing on what you're building. You stop performing and you start living intentionally. Purpose makes your effort mean something. It gives you direction when motivation runs dry. It gives you peace when outcomes don't match your expectations. A lot of people quit not because they don't have the skill, but because they've lost their sense of purpose. They forget why they started. They forget the vision that made them fight in the first place. That's why you've got to protect your why. Because if you lose it, everything else falls apart. Without purpose, the process feels pointless. But when you remember your purpose, even pain has meaning. There were days when I didn't feel like showing up, days when I questioned everything. But purpose doesn't ask you to feel ready. It asks you to be faithful. It's about being consistent when it's inconvenient. It's about doing what you said you'd do long after the emotion that made you say it has left. Purpose doesn't need to be loud or flashy, it just needs to be real. When you find your purpose, your work transforms. You start seeing your job as a platform, not a prison. You start realizing that where you are is part of where you're going. You start serving differently, loving differently, giving differently. Because now it's not about you. It's about the mission. It's about making the most of what's in your hands right now, trusting that it's preparing you for what's ahead. And that's what separates those who fade from those who last. Passion is about excitement. Purpose is about endurance. Passion is fueled by emotion. Purpose is fueled by conviction. Passion might light the fire, but purpose keeps it burning when the wind picks up. If you ever find yourself tired, unmotivated, or unsure, don't look for another burst of passion. Go back to your purpose. Reconnect with your why. Because that's where your strength lies. That's where your drive is renewed. That's where your peace returns. Passion without purpose fades. When you know your why, you become dangerous, not to people, but to doubt, to fear, to every excuse that tries to convince you to quit. Because when your reason for starting runs deep enough, you can take the hits, you can handle the pressure, and you can keep showing up even when everything in you wants to stop. The difference between people who quit and people who endure isn't talent. It isn't resources, it's resolve. It's that inner fire that says, no matter what comes my way, I'm not backing down. I've learned that life will always test how badly you want something. It'll test your commitment, your consistency, your faith. It'll throw things at you that make you question if what you're doing is worth it. And in those moments, your why becomes your anchor. Because when you lose sight of it, everything else starts to unravel. But when you hold on to it, you can withstand the storm. When I first faced adversity, I thought strength came from muscles or mindset. I thought if I just pushed harder, I could overcome anything. But real strength doesn't come from your body. It comes from your belief. It comes from that deep sense of purpose that won't let you give up, even when you're broken, even when you're tired, even when you don't understand why you're still fighting. Your why gives you that second wind when your body has nothing left. It whispers, keep going. When the world tells you it's over, there's something powerful about a person who refuses to quit because they know why they started. They might not move the fastest, they might not have the best conditions, but they keep showing up day after day, step after step, because consistency always beats intensity. Your why keeps you consistent when emotion fades. It reminds you that you're not just working for yourself, you're working for something bigger. Maybe it's your family, maybe it's your faith, maybe it's the people watching you who need proof that perseverance still exists. Whatever it is, that why becomes your fuel. I've seen people chase goals that look good on paper but fall apart under pressure because they weren't built on purpose. When your why is shallow, the first challenge will break you. But when your why is solid, the pressure just refines you. You stop seeing failure as final and start seeing it as feedback. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? That shift, that's where resilience is born. Resilience isn't about pretending you're not hurting. It's about remembering your purpose in the middle of the hurt. It's about saying, yeah, this is hard, but it's not harder than my reason for being here. When you carry that kind of conviction, you don't need everything to go your way. You just need enough strength to take one more step. Every time life knocks you down, it gives you a choice: stay there or get up and fight for your why. And the truth is, nobody can do that for you. People can motivate you, they can inspire you, but only you can decide to keep going. Only you can hold on to that vision when it's invisible. Only you can remind yourself that you didn't come this far just to stop now. When your why is clear, the always finds a way. You might not know what the next step looks like, but you'll take it anyway. You'll trust that if you keep moving with purpose, the path will unfold. Because your why doesn't just fuel your resilience, it becomes your compass. It points you forward when everything around you tries to pull you back. Your why fuels your resilience. You know, I used to think success was the goal, that if I could just reach a certain level, accomplish enough, earn enough, then I'd finally feel fulfilled. But what I've come to realize is that success fades, achievements fade, awards collect dust, records get broken, people move on. What really lasts is the impact you leave on others. The lives you touch, the hearts you lift, the people who remember how you made them feel long after you're gone. That's what purpose is all about. Not chasing success, but creating significance. When I was younger, I wanted to make it big. I thought if I worked hard enough, I could build a life that would make everyone proud. But life has a way of shifting your perspective. Sometimes it takes something being taken away for you to see what really matters. I realized that the most powerful thing you can do in this life isn't to impress people, it's to inspire them. It's to live in a way that makes someone else believe they can overcome what they're facing. That's legacy, and legacy always outlasts achievement. See, when you live with purpose, you stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what can I give? You stop measuring your life by trophies, and you start measuring it by transformation, by the moments when your struggle helps someone else find their strength. Because that's what purpose does. It turns pain into power, and it turns experience into example. It allows your life to become a message, one that speaks louder than any accomplishment ever could. We live in a world that celebrates results, but purpose celebrates resilience. The world loves the highlight reel, the wins, the success, the applause. But purpose cares about the behind-the-scenes moments, the quiet consistency, the way you treat people when nobody's watching. Success is about reaching the top, but impact is about lifting others while you climb. It's about using your platform, whatever it looks like, to serve something bigger than yourself. I remember a time when I asked myself, if everything I've worked for was gone tomorrow, who would I be? That question humbled me, because I realized that if your identity is built on achievement, you'll always be chasing the next thing to feel whole. But if your identity is built on purpose, you can lose it all and still have peace. Because who you are isn't defined by what you have. It's defined by what you give. There's something special about people who live for more than themselves. You can feel it when you're around them. They move differently. They speak differently. They love differently. They've discovered that true fulfillment doesn't come from recognition. It comes from contribution. They don't just want to be remembered for what they did. They want to be remembered for how they lived, how they served, and how they made a difference. And that's what I want for every person listening. To stop chasing success that dies with you and start building impact that lives beyond you. Because your story, your struggle, your scars, they all have value. Somebody out there needs the very thing you've been through. Don't keep it to yourself. Use it. Share it. Let your life be proof that purpose can rise from pain, and that meaning can come from even the most unexpected places. One day, the achievements, the titles, the applause, they'll all fade. But the way you live, the people you touched, the lives you helped change, that will echo long after you're gone. That's what purpose does. It creates a ripple that keeps moving long after the moment has passed. Impact outlasts achievement.